Okay. Uh, I'll add up. Okay, I am already there. Okay, I will come in the big screen right now. No, sorry. Okay. Uh, Good evening, everybody. Welcome you back on my FB Live program. I really appreciate your interest and passion for trekking. Today I have our I've been honored and privileged to have Miss Sushila Rajgopal, who is our veteran trekker, and I know her from last 15 years, who've been trekking with us, and she's also treks with various organizations across India and abroad, and she's done quite a lot of Himalayan treks. Today, with despite her busy schedule, we have asked her to share her experiences. In fact, from last 2 months, we are asking her, but she was very busy, so today she has made some time for us, and we really thank you, madam, for making your time and sharing your experience. This experience will help us for many people to explore Great Lakes Trek, because Great Lakes Trek is one of the most sought after trek in Kashmir. So a lot of people go across. Of late, last 4 5 years, this has become a very popular trekking trail. So we thought, we thought to bring this program. This is our first show wherein we're trying to bring the experienced trucker to share their story, and so that it can help other trekkers to plan accordingly, because they might be having a lot of doubts in their mind, like where to go, how to go, and how safe it is, and like what are the places to visit across. So now, because this program will definitely the madam will like definitely open up your mind parachute and explain you like how how the now, because this program will definitely the madam will like definitely open up, so it will explain you. So madam, I will not take much of time of our trekkers, so I will immediately share the screen to Miss Sushila madam. Madam, you can take over and you can start explaining your experiences, so that people can take it across. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dev Balaji.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, Dev Balaji?
Yeah, you are audible. Yeah.
Okay. Today, I'm going to talk about my experience on the Kashmir Great Lakes trek. And when somebody usually says Kashmir or they think of the Himalayas, it is a very romantic picture that comes to our minds. And you put the two together, and it is simply paradise on earth. And that is what this trek did to me. It was my very first trek that I did in 2013. And ever since then, I've been hooked and I've been trekking in the Himalayas every year after that. So, before I talk about the trek, for the uninitiated, these Himalayan treks present a logistic problem. You will need to carry your tent, your food, your utensils to make your food, your clothes, your sleeping bag, toilet paper, all kinds of things you will need to carry. And you will need to be really fit in order to trek about 10 kilometers a day on hilly terrain. Um, so that level of fitness is required. So if you're a beginner, I would suggest you go with a regular trek organizer. They'll take care of all these logistics. They will already have a group together, and in case you're not well or something, they'll be able to take care of you. There is one more point that I'd like to make. As you climb higher and higher in the Himalayas, and as you go around 8,000 feet or so, the oxygen levels begin to drop. So you will experience what is known as acute mountain sickness. All right, it can affect different people in different ways. It can affect people who are trekking for the first time or even a seasoned trekker. So before you start on such a trek, please read up about it, get as much information as you can, talk to people, and then go on such a trek. Um, so it's not like you see some beautiful pictures today and then tomorrow you can just leave. You need to be physically fit and you need to take care of all these other factors. So with that small warning, I'd like to share my experience with you. I'll share some pictures on the PPT. Devalaji, shall I move to the PPT? Right. I hope the PPT is visible.
Yeah, you can go ahead. You can go ahead. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So for this trek, you need to get to Srinagar. All right, so please remember that the Srinagar airport is a high security airport, and you'll need to plan for several hours on the way in and on the way out. And once you get there, um, I would suggest that you spend a day or two taking in Kashmir at that place. You can stay in a houseboat on the Dal Lake. You can take a shikara ride in the evening during sunset, or you can climb up to the Shankaracharya temple. That's a high security hill, but you can still go there without your camera and your cell phone. Or you can try the Vazwan cuisine, which is unique to Kashmir, or you can try their kawa tea. And there are a number of Mughal gardens in Srinagar, which you can see. These gardens, those of us who grew up in the 60s and in the 70s, we saw these gardens in every Hindi movie song. So you can see these places actually, and you'll see that none of these places have actually changed. Nothing much has changed. You can relive those songs. All right. So the trek, after you reach Srinagar, the next day I'll call it as day one. That is the day when you will actually not start your trek. You will get in touch with your trek organizer, and they will take you by car to a place called Gagangir. Gagangir is along the Srinagar-Leh highway, and they will put you up overnight. And this drive is completely along the Jhelum River, and you will be able to experience the Kashmiri countryside, where you can see all these sheep grazing in the meadows and so on, and you will be able to see the Jhelum River. And Gagangir itself is somewhere close to the Jhelum River, so in the evening you can take a walk and see the river. The hills that you see out here in the lower slide or in the upper slide are known as the Pir Panjal Hills or the Pir Panjal Range. So what exactly is this Pir Panjal? The snow-capped peaks like Everest, Kanchenjunga, K2 all form the Great Himalayan Range. As you can see on the slide here, this is the Great Himalayan Range, which are the snow-capped mountains. Just south of that range is another range which is exactly parallel to the Great Himalayan Range, that is known as the Lesser Himalayas. And these Lesser Himalayas are steep hills to about 15,000 feet and so on. And they are forest covered. They are densely vegetated, they are forest covered because the rivers that originate in the Himalayas, like the Ganga, flow through these hills. And the southwest monsoon that comes from India sheds all the rain over these ranges. So these ranges are really green, and there's a lot of flora and fauna in these regions. Those are the Pir Panjal ranges. I'm sorry, in Kashmir it is known as Pir Panjal. In different parts of the Indian subcontinent, they are known by different names. So I have one question for you. Maybe you can leave your answer in the comment box. The Lesser Himalayas, what are they called in Nepal? In Kashmir, it is called Pir Panjal, which is where you'll be doing this trek. And my question is, what are they called in Nepal? When you take any flight to any of these Himalayan regions, you will be able to see that gradation. You see the distant snow-capped mountains, which are the Great Himalayas, and just below that are the Lesser Himalayas, known by different names in different regions. So this is day one, where you will be taken to Gagangir, somewhere along the Srinagar-Leh highway, and you'll be put up there overnight. Before the trek starts on the following day. The next morning, let me just take you through the map and the different heights that you will be, the elevations that you will be experiencing during this trek before I actually talk about the trek. So this is the Srinagar-Leh highway. So somewhere near Sonmarg, you will be taken by car. From Gagangir, it's probably another 10-15 minutes drive, and somewhere near the hillside they will drop you off, and there's a rough track right on the hillside where you'll start climbing. So the climb starts in a place called Shekdur. You'll do a steep climb through a forest. The first day is through a forest where you'll camp at a place known as Nichnai. So the very first day from Shekdur to Nichnai, you're gaining quite a bit of height. Right? Shekdur is around 11,000 feet, and you will be crossing what is known as the Nichnai Pass, which is at little more than 13,500 feet. So the altitude will affect you at this point, and you need to take care. How to do that, we'll talk as we go on. The next day, you will go from Nichnai to what the Vishansar and the Kishansar lakes. They are twin lakes. You will trek towards them. You will not gain much in height. So this day is relatively easy. After that, the third day, you will cross what is known as the Gadsar Pass, which is around 13,800 feet. And then you will camp near the Gadsar Lake. That is this. The following day, you will cross a river and you will camp near Satsar. You are not gaining too much in height in total. The penultimate day, you will cross what is known as the Zach Pass after the Satsar camp. That is again at 13,500 feet plus. And you will camp near the Gangabal and Nandakol lakes, once again twin lakes. And the last day, you will descend through a forest and reach the highway again, and then you will go back to Srinagar. So these are the heights that you will be experiencing, excess of 13,000 feet on 3 different days. So you will have to watch out for this acute mountain sickness when you start this camp. Also, why is it called the Kashmir Great Lakes? As you can see, you are first day, second day, third day, and the fourth day. 4 days out of the 6 days, you are camping near lakes, the Vishnusar and the Kishansar. Vishnusar is also known as Kishansar Lake. That is twin lakes. And then you are camping near the Gadsar Lake. And then the Satsar Lakes, which is actually a group of 7 lakes, but you will see only a couple of them. And on the penultimate day, you will be camping near another set of twin lakes, the Nandakol and the Gangabal lakes. So since most of your days are by the side of lakes, it is known as the Kashmir Great Lakes Trek. Now we will move on to day 2. That is from Gagangir, you're dropped off near the highway and you start your trek on a rough jeep track and you enter a forest. All right. So this is where your trek starts. Your trek is in Sonmarg, and this is the beautiful view that you have of Sonmarg and the Sindh River when you start climbing. It's a very sharp climb through a thickly wooded part until you reach the meadows, where you see rolling grasslands, pine trees, the chinar trees, the distant hills, the glaciers, and sheep grazing peacefully. So this is your first experience of the Kashmir countryside. Take your time, enjoy it, enjoy the beautiful clean air, and this will take about a couple of hours to cross. And then you will trek through a forest of dense maple and birch trees and chinar trees. So since you're gaining height pretty fast, you are likely to be hit by acute mountain sickness. It could be headache, it could be fatigue, it could be dizziness, breathlessness. So you need to be careful, take it slow, keep sipping water, keep munching some chocolates or whatever, and take it easy. And if you have a problem, the smallest of problems, please report to your trek leader. Don't hide it from them, because they are the ones who have to take care of you or take you back. So please keep them informed and take all these precautions. And if your symptoms are a little more severe, I'm sorry to say that you may have to turn back at this point, recover, and then restart your trek. It's a possibility, it may not happen. Another thing, if you're trekking in autumn, which is generally the trekking season, you will need to dress accordingly. You are trekking during the early morning and in the afternoon. And as you trek, you'll start to feel warm and you may start perspiring. So you may have to remove your jacket. But the moment you stop trekking, the cold air gets you, and you'll start feeling cold, so you will have to put your jacket back on. So you need to dress in layers, and also you need to be prepared for rain. So you'll need to carry a rain jacket with you. And the most important thing is wear a hat. You need to keep your head covered no matter what. Right? Probably this is the most important tip that I can give you. Always cover your head and buy proper shoes, trekking shoes with ankle support, and only then go on these treks. Break the shoe in, don't buy a new pair of shoes and start trekking. So already do some local treks once you buy the shoes, and then go on these Himalayan treks. So that's probably the most important tip that I can give you regarding this. All right. Once you cross this forest and you cross the Nichnai Pass, you descend into the Nichnai Valley. This is the Nichnai Valley. This is the Nichnai River. And you will follow the river for the rest of the day. You will follow it upstream. It is boulder strewn meadows. There is grass. And because we trekked in autumn, we saw some tiny red plants covering the hillside. So the hillside looks reddish because of these plants. You will stop somewhere along the river, have your lunch, and then continue trekking late afternoon, 3:34. So this entire trek for this day is about 11 to 12 kilometers, and you will take 6 to 7 hours to complete this day. And you will camp by the Nichnai River. This will be your camp. So that is day 2 of the trek. We'll now move on to day 3, where you will trek from Nichnai, which is about 12,000 feet, to the Vishnusar and Kishansar lakes, which are roughly at the same height, 12,000 feet. But then to get there, you will ascend the Nichnai Pass and then descend again. So you will be crossing 13,500 feet. Once again, watch out for AMS and be prepared for that. And keep drinking water and keep eating something and go at a steady pace. This day's trek will take you about 7 hours. The pattern on this trek is, in the morning you'll start climbing, you will gain a certain height, and then by afternoon you will slowly descend and then reach your campsite. So you are rather acclimatized by the time you get to camp, provided you take all the precautions when you climb. So this day, about after the Nichnai Pass, you will start descending towards the Vishnusar Lake, and this is the kind of scene that awaits you. These are the Pir Panjal ranges, and you can see you're going above the tree line, leaving the trees behind and moving on to the meadow type of landscape. So you will get to Vishnusar late in the afternoon. My advice to you is you can relax for some time, have your tea, and then spend some quiet time by the lake. The lake is absolutely blue, and the color changes from emerald green to blue depending on how the light is falling on it and the cloud movement and so on. And you can sit by the lake quietly, watch this, take in the peaceful surroundings, the pristine surroundings, and do drink that water. These waters are extremely clean and they're well oxygenated. So when you drink it, it is almost intoxicating. These waters, there is no algae or anything, so it's very clean. So you can spend the rest of the afternoon enjoying the Vishnusar lake. That will bring you to the end of day 3. The next day, that is day 4, you will go from Vishnusar to the Gadsar lake, which is at 12,200. The height difference is about 200 feet. But this day you will cross the Gadsar Pass, which is at 13,850 feet. The distance is a good 15-16 kilometers, and you will take 8 hours. So as you climb from the Vishnusar lake, this is the Vishnusar lake, you will see the Kishansar lake. This lake is not visible from Vishnusar. Only when you start gaining height towards the Gadsar Pass, you will be able to see the twin lakes. And this is probably one of the most famous views of the two lakes for the Kashmir Great Lakes trek. This is when you see this lake, and then you move towards the Gadsar Pass. This is the path towards Gadsar, the Gadsar Pass, which is at a height. It's a gradual climb, but it is still at 13,800 feet. Do take care, watch out for AMS. Once you cross the Gadsar Pass, you see the Gadsar Lake, emerald green Gadsar Lake. And there is quite a bit of grass around the Gadsar Lake, and there are some blue flowers. Generally, if you trek in the month of July or August, the flowers will be blooming, the grass will be green, and the temperatures are reasonably moderate, and you may have occasional bouts of rain. So there's a lot of greenery on the hillsides, and the hills look very good. They don't look very barren like this picture. We went in late September, so by then the grass had all dried up, the flowers had wilted, but the skies are crystal clear. This blue skies you will get in September, and very rarely will it rain. So depending on how you want to experience the mountains, you will have to time your trek accordingly. After you cross the Gadsar Lake, you will come across an army outpost. We are pretty close to the line of control. So there is the army outpost. They will note down your details, and then they let you go towards camp. And little beyond the army outpost is your Gadsar camp on day 4. Right. On the 5th day, you will trek from Gadsar to Satsar. You will be crossing to Satsar in about a time of about 5-6 hours. You are not gaining too much in height on this day, and it's a pretty easy trek on day 5. But your day starts with some amount of excitement. You will need to cross a stream in the morning. The first thing in the morning, you will need to cross the stream and then continue on your trek on the hillside like this. So this stream, the water is ice cold. And all along in the trek, we are asking you to cover your head, wear gloves, wear shoes, wear socks. Now you are asked to remove your shoes and socks and wade through ice cold water. And it's not like you can run through it because the stones are slippery. So you need to do it slowly and carefully. And it is so cold, that it is extremely painful. And this is an experience that you have. I cannot describe it to you. It's so totally painful that some people had to just sit down and cry after they crossed this stream. So after you cross the stream, it is a very gentle trek. You will get to one lake, and then this is one of the Satsar lakes. This is me and a friend at Satsar Lake. You will once again meet the army, and they will once again note down your details and everything, and then let you go towards your camp. When you are crossing the hillside here, between the hills, in the valley between the hills, you will see the eternal snow-capped mountains. This is Nanga Parbat in Pakistan. There are only a handful of mountains in the world that are higher than Nanga Parbat. See if you can name some of them. Leave your answers in the comment box. And Nanga Parbat has another significance. Geographically, in the Himalayan range, it holds a certain significance. See if you can figure out what that is. So this is on the way towards the Satsar Lake. You will get a view of Nanga Parbat, provided the skies are clear. That ends day 5. Now we will move on to day 6. Day 6 is when you go from Satsar towards the twin lakes of Nandakol and Gangbar. The distance is about 9 to 10 kilometers. It will take you 6 to 7 hours to get there. And today you will cross another pass known as the Zach Pass. Zach Pass is again at 13,500, 600 feet. And by now you would have probably been acclimatized to it. But I continue to watch out for AMS. When you start the day, you will necessarily go slow because you are going to go through this boulder-strewn path. It takes about an hour or so, or more than an hour, to cross this boulder-strewn path. You will have to hop from boulder to boulder, and you'll have to do it very carefully. You don't want to misstep and twist your ankle at this point. So you'll have to do this very carefully, and you will cross the Zach Pass. And from Zach Pass, this is the view that you have: the Pir Panjal range and the valleys, and clear blue skies if you go in September. A little distance beyond Zach Pass, this is the view that you have. This is where you'll be camping for the night. This is the Nandakol Lake. This is the Gangbal Lake, and this is the Harmukh Peak. So you're sitting here, you'll be having your lunch with a full view of these two lakes. Post lunch, you will need to descend all the way here, climb a small hill, and then descend again towards the Nandakol camp. Strangely, during this descent, I got separated from my friends, and I was alone till I reached this highest point. And I had a beautiful view of Nandakol and Gangbal all to myself. And it was like I was alone in the world just watching this Nandakol lake. And there were clouds behind the Harmukh peak. And this is the view I had all to myself. And I could see the camp here, so I knew I was not on the wrong path. I could see these orange tents. But I had this view to myself for a very long time. This is the path towards the Nandakol camp. This is the Nandakol camp itself. So once again, as in near the Vishnusar Lake, you can spend some time in the evening on the banks of Nandakol, take a walk, drink the water, take in the atmosphere. And you may see something like this at Nandakol. So that ends day 6 when you reach Nandakol. Every trek has an additional day known as the buffer day. This is just in case of any unforeseen eventualities. So we were almost near the end of the trek. In Nandakol, there was just one more day left, and the weather was very clear. So we had not used a buffer day. So we decided to use the buffer day at Nandakol. Because, I mean, how many chances in life are you going to get to spend at a lake like this? So we spent day 7 at Nandakol, and early morning we took a walk along the lake, and this is the beautiful sunrise that we saw with the early morning light falling on Harmukh, and Harmukh being reflected in the Nandakol lake. And this is another picture that I took of the horsemen starting a fire to warm themselves up to make tea. You can see all this kind of beautiful scenes in the morning at Nandakol. After that, we did a day trek to the Gangbal Lake and came back to Nandakol and spent another night at Nandakol. Gangbal is about 1 hour from Nandakol, and you will need to cross a stream before you get to this Gangbal Lake. Gangbal Lake is absolutely blue and a very clean lake. You can see the stones for quite a depth from the water surface. And we spent some time here and then walked back to Nandakol. Gangbal Lake is considered holy because it is the source of the Sindh River. The Gangbal Lake, via the stream, empties into Nandakol, which empties into the Sindh River. So because it is the source of a river, it is considered holy. And people do come here for yatras, but not taking the route that we took. They take a different route and come here for their yatra. This arrangement of Nandakol, Gangbal and Harmukh sort of looks like another holy mountain in the Himalayas with twin lakes. Can you guess what that is? Leave your answers in the comment box. So after Gangbal, we returned to Nandakol camp, and then we had a farewell campfire at Nandakol. Normally, you're not allowed to chop firewood anywhere in the Himalayas because it's not good for the environment, and it is banned in many parts. But if you find fallen twigs and dead logs and so on, you can have a small campfire. So we had this campfire on the penultimate day, day 7, and the last day, day 8, we descended towards Narana. The day started with mist and cloud and rain, and we had to trek through the rain through pine forest. Now you're losing height. Nandakol is at 11,000 and odd 500 feet, and Narnag is at 7,500 feet. So you're losing height very rapidly through the Narnag forest. The Narnag forest is pine covered, and you will once again see the army there. There are the army barracks there. So you will descend through these pine forests through a number of hairpin bends. There are about 100 or so hairpin bends, and it takes a long time to descend through this. It gets a little tiring. But as you descend, you start to see signs of civilization like huts and buildings and so on. And that's when you begin to feel depressed because you spent so many days in the mountains and then suddenly you're back in a built up area. So that's where your trek ends, when this path through the forest leads to a road. So at the roadhead, you'll be picked up and taken by road to Srinagar. And on the way, you may see some apple orchards. Do stop and buy the wonderful Kashmiri apples there. And once you get back to Srinagar, you can explore the Dal Lake and so on, or whatever you've not seen earlier. So this is a view of the forest as we were descending in Narnath. This is in the morning when it was cloudy and misty and rainy. That's when I took this shot. So I'll end with this idyllic picture on Dal Lake of this old couple fishing in Dal Lake, which is probably their livelihood. But all is not well exactly. If you look at this other picture, you can see that it is overgrown with weeds. So if this is not cleaned regularly, the fish may die, and this old couple will probably not have a livelihood. So, in fact, because this Kashmir Great Lakes trek has become so popular in the last few years, a lot of dabas have come up on the route, especially in the beginning and in the end, and the amount of litter has increased, right? And also because of the large number of trekkers, there's a lot of litter. So, if you want to experience these beautiful places, the most basic thing that you do is not litter. It is your responsibility to continue to keep these surroundings pristine. When you think of the Himalayas, we seem to imagine huge mountains of rock and ice that are a climbing challenge to trekkers. You think of it as a challenge. But do remember that in our culture, the Himalayas are considered holy, and there's good reason for that. One thing is, they form a barrier to the monsoon clouds, the southwest monsoon. And the southwest monsoon, the clouds shed over the plains of India. And because of that, India is not a hot desert. Otherwise, if the Himalayas were not there, probably the monsoon also would not be there. So it determines the entire weather and climate of India. Also, a number of rivers. The most important river that you can probably think of is Ganga. There is also Yamuna, Brahmaputra, Indus. All of them originate in the Himalayas. They are fed by the glacial melts from these snow-capped mountains and also by the monsoon. And they flow through to the Indian, the plains of India, bringing down copious amounts of water and also the soil from the Himalayas, making the Indian plains fertile. You can't even imagine an India without a Ganga or a Brahmaputra. So it is for these reasons that the Himalayas are considered holy. And if you look at this next slide, this is not taken in Kashmir, it is taken in Uttarakhand. You can see these are the lesser Himalayas which are tree covered, and then gradually they become grasslands, and then you have the snow-capped mountains. You have a variety of landscapes here itself, from a dense forest to a grassland to the snow-capped mountains, which whose glacial melts feed all these rivers. This is a river valley. So you have a variety of ecosystems, and there's a large number of flora and fauna which are unique to the Himalayas, which are native to the Himalayas. In fact, the Himalayas are one of the most diverse hotspots in the world. And the variety that you have here is unmatched anywhere else in the world. For example, the Brahma Kamal or the blue poppy are native to the Himalayas. You also have the edelweiss. You also have animals like the snow leopard, which are found in the Himalayas. So these are an ecosystem in themselves. And today, with so many threats to the environment, these mighty Himalayas are in a very precarious position. The changes in the Himalayas are seeing a very rapid, and it looks like they are very vulnerable because they are very young mountains, seismically active, and so on. So try, when you go there, try to reduce your footprint. The basic thing that you can do is not litter and not defile. And if you see any kind of activity that is a threat to the environment, try to raise your voice against it. Or at the very least, when you talk about your adventures there, just pass on this message. I'd like to end with that. Thank you all. And thank you, Nature Admirer and Dev Balaji, for this opportunity.
Okay, thanks a lot, madam. Thank you so much for joining us. And it was a wonderful presentation. And hopefully, all our trekkers would have really had a wonderful time opening their mind parachute about this Great Lake trek. And you have covered complete itinerary as well as also the ecological problems which is faced by the trekkers. And
Yes,
also at the same time, vegetation also. You educated people what type of vegetations are available during the different season. So this helps the people to plan their trip accordingly. So thank you so much for taking your valuable time, and hopefully look forward to listen to your many more trekking experiences, especially the Annapurna. Probably I'll schedule the time next week and definitely update you across, and also help inform other our trekkers also who are watching, our patrons, so they can also join, and also request people to leave comment and feedback, and also request them to ask questions so that we can get back to them. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot, and thank you all my patrons for watching it, and really appreciate your time and joining for us. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye bye.